Hello, Taurus, and welcome to Soul Guidance with Adriana. I am a transformative life coach and abundance consultant. I help sensitive souls work on themselves and their business in the most abundant way possible. I have an intuitive message for you. We'll start with the animal message first. Dolphin happiness. I've been getting this card a lot personally. The big message with this card is happiness is self-created. And as much as I would like to argue with that, it is true. All right, happiness is created by our thoughts, what we focus on, and how we feel about certain things. Okay, reality is so subjective to me. I remember once, I think it was maybe 15 years ago, it was a long time ago, before my master's in piano. I went to Italy for a summer program. And I had decided before I went, I'm going to Italy for a week or 2 weeks or how long, and I'm going to have a good time no matter what. I don't care what the situation is. How can I have a bad time in Italy? I'm going there. So there was one person, just one, on the trip who was very negative, hated everything, hated the food, hated the culture, hated the language. And we would be sitting there in the same place, in the same restaurant or the cafe or same master class, and we'd be even sitting fairly close. I tried not to stay too close, but we'd be sitting fairly close. And I would hear her talking about the event later, the experience later, and I'd be like, were we at the same thing? So our reality really was completely the same, the facts and circumstances, but the reality of our processing and our intention of our experience was so different. I intended enjoyment. She intended something else. And it's the same with our happiness. When we decide every day that we are going to have a day that supports our highest good, or supports our heart's desire, or supports our feeling of contentment, when you intend that first thing, that is the most powerful thing you can do all day. Because whatever happens is you're going to process it totally differently, and you're going to have a different happiness quotient. Okay, let's look at the rest of your message. We start with the world. It's funny coming off of this card, talking about the world. This card looks at completion, at wholeness, at understanding there's nothing that we need to seek outside of ourselves to make us whole. I mean, yes, we need to seek things to grow and expand and enjoy, but we are whole within ourselves. And I think this really relates amazingly to the happiness card. Because a lot of times we think, if I only had that, or I only had him, or I only had her, or I only had a group, I would be happy. If I only had X outside of myself, I would be happy. And that's not the way it works. That's not the way your soul works. Your soul understands that it's happy already. It's whole already. And then it starts to attract from that place. Okay? So, like energy attracts like energy, and energies that are not compatible with each other can't stay with each other. Just like I didn't want to stay around that girl, positive and negative can't exist together. So if you are trying to attract something, but you are attracting from a negative place, it's going to manifest in a negative way. Now, I don't want to get too carried away that direction. I'm going to get the rest of your cards. Beneficial energy, the Hermit, and challenging energy, the Star. Okay, let me just check, because the Hermit has been giving me different messages as of late. Okay, they're confirming. The Hermit is sometimes about going inward, but for you right now, Taurus, it's about going out and teaching and sharing what you know. And if you feel like you have nothing to teach and share, then sharing your presence, sharing your grounded presence, sharing that presence of wholeness. The Hermit is shining his light, but I think for you and I, it's sharing the light. It's taking this light that's behind his head and putting it out. The Star wants to keep the light all to herself. The North Star, right? The light of the North Star. The Star is a lovely card. Don't get me wrong. I love the Star. because this card has to do with healing and aligning with yourself and coming home into yourself and drawing inward after a time of chaos. But that energy is not going to serve you this week because you're being asked to share, to go out. Still in a quiet way. You don't have to be, blah, look at me, I've got everything, blah, listen to me. You're sharing in a quiet way, but it's a willingness, an intention, again, to share. So we come back to the happiness card, the happiness quotient. Happiness for you this week is about expressing and being and persisting in where you are, sharing your presence out. It's kind of an oxymoron that the Hermit card, hermits usually like to go in, but the Hermit is actually telling us to go out, okay? That's really kind of funny. On this happiness card is a pregnant woman, okay? And so she's holding this new life in her. But the message for you now is share, bring it out, bring this new life out. So if there's something you've been wanting to put out, a post, a class, something different, or if you've been wanting to reach out to someone and just see how they are, anything that's extending your energy outside of your immediate space, that is what you're being asked to do this week, Taurus. It's not just about staying in your comfortable little pasture. There's a time and a place for that, but I think the star is telling us we've spent too much time there. It's time to go out. All right, let's look at your other cards. Two of Cups and King of Swords. So we're sizing up a relationship, trying to make sense of a connection here. My guides are saying read this both ways. Two of Cups, to me, first looks at the relationship with yourself, because it is that which is the building block for any relationship with anyone else. But I also feel this is going to apply to new energy coming in, because as you go out and share, that's going to invite new energy into your space. And so there are potential relationships you are going to have to look at. The King of Swords is asking you to use your clear-headed judgment, not to get swept away by your heart or by your emotions or by your excitement, but to look at the relationship in terms of fairness, equality, and mutual benefit, and to do that in kind of a cold, detached way. I don't mean cold-hearted, because in sharing you do want to keep your energy field and your heart open. But the King of Swords he's not swayed by that gushy heart. And, sometimes I've tried to work on it in myself. I have worked on it in myself, but I've seen it in other Tauruses that, we're a sucker for the heartstrings. We're a sucker for sentimentality. If it's a loved one being harmed, we sometimes, our heart immediately goes there instead of going, wait a second, is this actually good for them? Will they learn something here? Okay, so the King of Swords is just reminding you that you do have a sense of justice, a sense of balance, and you need to weigh those relationships that come towards you with that sense of fairness, with that sense of equality, so that you can have a plan of where they can go, so you can have a clear vision of where this relationship can go. Okay, Taurus, thank you so, so much for sharing your time and energy with me. I have a new offering coming. I haven't built any infrastructure yet, but I do have this spread. It is an amazing solstice and New Year's 2020 spread to set you up for this next year. I love all the information that's in it. And if you're curious about it kind of before I launch it, please email soulguidancewithadriana@gmail.com, and I'm happy to give you more information. So I'll talk to you next week, and have a good one, Taurus.